What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Pull Up Show. I'm your host, Mr. BJ Matthews, aka B Jizzle. Before we get started, follow us on the YouTube page, the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. All of our YouTube videos, hit that like button. Y'all coming here, hit the share, subscribe, hit that Cash App, $SlickRick1990, $SlickRick1990 is our Cash App as well. If you guys do not have Cash App, make sure you guys subscribe to us at the Pull Up Basketball Podcast on all social media platforms. YouTube, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. Follow us on all your media websites, you know what I'm saying? And we're going to make sure to get that done for y'all. But let's get it popping. All right. So I know it's been a little bit of time. I hope that y'all missed me. I took some time off a little bit to kind of just, re-gather, a lot of things and thoughts and stuff like that. But I'm back. You know what I'm saying? It's really only been like a week and a half, if not that. I ain't really spoke a lot since the Clippers been eliminated, but I said, you know what? I got an obligation to y'all. And I know I've been getting hit up a little bit, like, when are y'all gonna put a video out? When y'all gonna do this, that, and the other? So I'm about to not only start putting videos out, but we have an interview coming next week before the finals, and it's gonna be a prominent figure that I think y'all gonna really like this interview. Summertime is gonna be meant for interviews more so than not, and also I plan on attending the NBA Summer League, covering that. So it's gonna be a lot of cool content, of course. Some of it's going to be having to have a membership. You guys want a membership, y'all can get a membership and get that access, but certain things will just be only be available to people who are members inside the pull-up show. So let's get it going. All right, so I know I'm a couple days late, but better late than never, right? I want to first give a shout out to the person who's going to be on. It's going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who won the NBA MVP just a couple of days ago, which, by the way, I feel like the award was delayed. I feel like the award should have been announced during the conference semifinals, not the conference after the conference finals. If I'm not mistaken, from what I'm used to knowing, the MVP is announced usually in the second round of the playoffs. But it seemed like they're changing the rules around to try to find ways to, give it to different people. It's mighty ironic how they gave Shai the MVP as soon as the series was over, which I want to say something about Nikola Jokic. Statistically, Nikola Jokic, from what they said, was first in points totals, rebounds, assists, yada yada yada. In the season, he had one of his most historical seasons, regular season statistically wise. Here, I done figured it out with Nikola Jokic. I don't want to get too much off because this is about Shai. The thing is that the MVP, like I said, what is it based off of? Is it based off of your record? Is it based off of head-to-head matchups? Is it based off of your stats? Is it based off of I got to find out what the MVP is based off, because where I come from, the area that I come from, which is the 2000s, they are basing their MVPs off of team record, stats, and then the head-to-head matchups against the other candidates. So let's say, for example, Shai and Nikola Jokic, whoever's team won and had probably better statistics had the edge in that category. So of course, they play two different positions, but the impact that Shai done had this season, the record that they have, all that in the regular season, I felt his presence was meant more than what Denver's presence was. Now, what they'll try to make it sound like is Denver really had no help and Jokic was doing it by himself. And this has come from a lot of the Jokic fans who really, just to be honest with you, ain't no worse than LeBron fans, ain't no worse than James Harden fans, ain't no worse than Luka fans, ain't no worse than any fan base that's so toxic enough to put down their teammates. That's the type of fans I'm talking about. Jokic fans has become that. A bunch of people who cling on to Jokic for other reasons other than basketball, and they try to overrate him and try to devalue his teammates. Where you've seen Aaron Gordon in that first series, along with Russell Westbrook, be the reason that they won that series against the Clippers. It was not Nikola Jokic. Right? We've seen it throughout the, past years how important Jamal Murray is, that Jokic couldn't get out the first round. Or that Jokic was getting swept and gentlemen swept without Jamal Murray and then he gets them back in 2023, gets them back, they win a championship right away. It's not a mistake that they've had multiple trips to the conference finals. When they're together, they don't lose in the first round, right? They always have great seasons with each other. I don't think they're lower than the third seed or the fourth seed since they've been together. Since they've been playing together. So my point is that Jokic has help. Russell Westbrook, Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray. You got this guy Christian Braun, who to me is an upgrade from KCP. And you have a great coach, and they have a great organization there in Denver. I listened to their owner. Y'all got to go listen to his interview where he spoke about the changes that are going to be made and how David Allen is the new coach. You know, they have a very well-ran organization. I can just tell over there. They know how to win. They know what it takes to win. They know what it looks like to win, and they make winning type of decisions. As y'all come to hit that like button. But I say that to all to say this. That was going to be the narrative because they wanted to try to up Jokic as much as possible. But like I said before, the screen is showing y'all SGA was the MVP, and he should have been MVP last year if we're going to be honest about it. They tried to make it seem like it was such a close race and that the race could have went either way. You couldn't, if you would have gave Nikola Jokic the MVP again under these circumstances, you would have to explain to a lot of people what's really going on. Because the way that it waited for that amount of time for him to get his MVP, I thought was more so they're trying to find a way to get Jokic that award. Which like I said, it's a regular season award. It's not a playoff award. So whatever they did in the series is null and void. It doesn't matter. What did you do in the regular season? Just like how the regular season doesn't matter when it's playoff time for James Harden. It's the same thing with this MVP award. That regular season MVP is for the regular season. So congratulations to Shai. Shai Alexander, he averaged 32 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6.4 assists, somewhere around 50 to 52% shooting from the field, somewhere between, I think, 35 and 37% from the three, and in the 80% from the free throw line. Great shooting splits, great numbers, winning record. I think he was a little like a shy under 2 steals a game. Very efficient and a winning team, and you know they're doing what they're doing right now. Now, this is what I'm gonna have to come to grips with. And y'all know me. I'm gonna always say when I'm wrong. I'm always say when I'm right. I'm not gonna really say it. I'm gonna let somebody else say it. But I said that the Oklahoma City Thunder has to prove to me that they can get to the conference finals. They did it. They did it. They got to the conference finals. They're up 2-0 against the Minnesota Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards, who have been playing some great basketball. They play again tonight. It's going to be a very, very high impact game in Minnesota. We will see what happens in this series. I got a lot of people saying the series is already over. The series doesn't start until the road team wins a game. All OKC did was do what they're supposed to and take care of home court, which in this era, I'm starting to see it's very, very more. It's becoming more and more, known that a lot of these teams don't mind giving up a game at home. Like a lot of times, you'll see a team give up 2-0, give up a 1-1. They'll split the series at home the first 2 games. Hell, the conference finals on both ends is 2-0 right now. The way Indiana took 2 games away from New York, that's a series that's more so you would call over because your home crowd is supposed to energize you. Your role players are supposed to play better. Hell, even your stars in this era tends to play better at home. Right? So if you want to have any leg up in a series, you got to win the home games. So the fact that New York dropped 2 games really is starting to show me that the Pacers really just have a more winning style of basketball. Unless the Pacers just completely fold this series at home, which I highly doubt. I think Indiana just more together. I think Indiana has a more stable offense. I think that Tyrese Halliburton is starting to prove that he's already going to be as far as the numbers go and his ability. He's a pure point guard. High assists, low turnover rate, scoring the clutch. Right? He's a leader. So a lot of stuff is coming to pass, man. And you look at the Knicks side. You got Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby fighting on the bench, or arguing on the bench. A lot of people say that's not a big deal, but I mean, you just see it in the play. New York just looks completely disorganized. They have a low IQ, yada yada yada. So I say that to say this: that series seems to be more over than this OKC and Minnesota series. Minnesota's going back home. Minnesota tends to play better in front of their crowd. OKC, from what I've seen in the playoffs, doesn't really put teams away on the road. They don't really destroy teams out. They do that at home. So you're going back home to Minnesota, and they might get a chance to beat OKC in these two games, and they have a new series again. So we'll see what happens in games 3 and 4. But I gotta give Oklahoma City, I gotta give Shai credit. They even got to the conference finals. That was the one thing that I said I needed them to see. I needed to see them get to the conference finals, and they did it. Right? So that's off their checklist. So I want to ask this question because I got this from somebody I saw on social media about where does Shai rank as far as all-time players of all time in OKC history. Now, there's only been 3 MVPs for OKC. That's Kevin Durant, which they say 2015 is really 2014. I don't know why they put that. Steph Curry was 2015. But Kevin Durant 2014, Russell Westbrook in 2017, and then Shai just this year in 2025. As y'all come to hit that like button. KD, Russell Westbrook, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are, I can pretty much say, are the top 3 guys that are looked in the organization as far as MVPs or as far as players. And that's not, and I'm gonna go into somebody else too that's being left out, who went to a finals and was dominant, who won multiple All NBA teams, multiple All Defensive teams, all that in an era where it was like known for having tough nosed players. I'm gonna bring him up too because I think he needs to be brought up. But these 3 guys are the guys that are looked at who is the best of the best. Now, of course, in the era we live in, a lot of these guys didn't watch only but so much of players who are older in a different era. But where does Shai rank as far as all-time players for OKC? Now, shout out to my boy Elysia because he wanted me to make this video, so I decided to keep my word. I'm gonna make it. And of course, today, I wanted to make it the other day, but so much was going on. But I want to jump in this topic because I think a lot of times, like I say, this is why I have to, and this makes me sound like a hater, but I'm just putting things in perspective. First, it was the Clippers made a mistake trading Shai away. I got a video for that coming as well. But now we have a conversation of Shai, the best player of OKC all time. Or where does he rank all time? So we're going to go through this together. And I'm going to share with y'all what we're dealing with right here. So when I talk about ranking and comparing players and contrasting all that stuff, I like to look at numbers. I like to look at, teams and situations. I like to look at a lot of different things. I don't just look at one thing. I look at playing style. I look at the competition they play, who they beat. I look at a lot of different things. So when you talk about a guy like SGA versus Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, well, let's just talk about what they did. Very, very, everybody understands numbers. So let's talk about numbers first. Let's go into that. We can go into comparisons and things of that nature. So let's start off with SGA career stats with OKC and what he has done with OKC is career-wise. Career-wise, SGA has averaged 27.4 points per game, 5.5 assists, 5.2 rebounds, and 380 games for the Thunder in his career. We do know that SGA onto the scene back in 2019-2020 for the OKC Thunder. He played 70 games that year. Then he switched on to 35 where he was dealing with injury. He played 56 the year after that, where I think they were pretty much eliminated early in that series. That's why season one. And he had dealt with some injuries, but OKC was pretty much at the bottom. In the next following year, they win 68 games. Now, these first 4 years in OKC, the OKC Thunder did not make the playoffs for the first 4 seasons. Remember, like I said before, the picks that the Clippers gave up, this is where I will say that things did fall in OKC's lap the way they were supposed to fall. They made a trade to trade Paul George, and they traded away picks that settled in right around the time they started to, get some steam. The 2022 unprotected first round pick, the 2021 first round pick, the 2023 protected first round pick. All three picks settled in for OKC. You got Chet Holmgren, you got Jalen Williams. Those two guys settled in. They came onto the scene. Right? Lou Dort. All three of those guys were part of those first round picks. Maybe sure I hit that like button. That's what OKC got. They wanted the picks. Sam Presti is a very, very smart GM. And I'm going to tell y'all why this is different from what Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook had when they were there. Because Sam Presti did a very, very smart move. He said, look, we're not going to be good when Chris Paul leaves. Let's look at building towards the future. Let's build a team around this guy, SGA, and see what we can do. Well, it paid off. Yes, OKC was bad for 3-4 straight years, or they were bad to mediocre. But after that, they came onto their own. So you traded all three guys all three picks have settled in for the Clipper for OKC, as well as they got some pick swaps as well. But their core that y'all see with Jalen Williams, with Chet Holmgren, with Lou Dort, these are all the picks that came with it. 2022, 2023, and 2024. All three of those picks. Well, I'm sorry. Actually, no. 2024 was a different pick. 2021, 2022, 2023. That's Shai. I mean, that's all Chet, Jalen Williams, and Lou Dort. That's their core. Now, before that, like I mentioned, they were struggling. They couldn't even get to the playoffs. And this is what SGA, people say that the Clippers should have kept him. That's why I keep going back to it. I have to do this. I gave Shai credit. I said that he should have won the MVP last year. He was the best player in the MVP. He was MVP this year. I gave him his respect, but now I'm going to put things in perspective again, because here we go again. I keep saying this, and I'm going to say it again. If the Clippers would have kept SGA, you're asking him to carry a team with no other star. Kawhi Leonard was out for 3 straight postseasons. SGA at the time, 18 points, 23, 24 a game, 31, and then 30 points per game, and then 32 this year. Let me explain something. He had all this freedom with OKC to do what he wanted with the basketball. And he was giving you 23, 24 points per game. You go to the Clippers side with a team where don't play like Ty Lue, who don't like to play young guys and stunts their growth. That's what he does. That's what Ty Lue does. There would have been no point to keep SGA, because as a young player, he wasn't going to get the chance to shine the way he was. Not with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. That wasn't going to happen. So it's easy now to say, let's go ahead and keep SGA. And he would have been, but no, he would not have. He would have not. I'm telling y'all, Ty Lue don't believe in playing young guys, and he wasn't better than these two on the screen. He couldn't even get his team to the out the. He couldn't even get him in the play-in, or he couldn't even get him to a playoff series for the first 4 years in OKC. So my point is that the reason why OKC has been successful, has been doing what they're doing, is because of the picks they've been getting. It hasn't been SGA carrying this franchise. They have a coach and they have a GM and organization that has built a team around him to allow him to cover up his deficiencies and strengthen his strengths. And this we're coming on to his first conference finals appearance. That is good. Now I will say something else, and I gotta say it. Well, actually, no, I'm not gonna say it, but I'm just gonna tell y'all this ain't been something they've been dominant in the last four seasons, or the last 6 seasons. One thing I respect though is they built the right way. They're building from the ground up. They're homegrown. That's what I will give them credit for. But as far as dominating teams and being multiple conference finals appearances and all this, that's not what's going on. Regular season, a lot of guys are sitting out. A lot of guys ain't playing full speed. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the regular season that, based off of your record of being the best team in the league and stuff, many of the older players that's been, into the playoffs a lot of multiple times, Nikola Jokic's, in the West, you got LeBron James, you got Luka, you got who else am I thinking of? Kawhi even. Those guys ain't really trying to press the regular season like they once was, because they already understand what's ahead of them. SGA and the OKC Thunder, you'll see a lot of times those guys playing up between 75, 82 games, because young, of course, and because they don't really understand like how rigorous the playoffs are. So they get a chance to get upper hands and up their regular season records. It's commendable, but I don't look at the regular season and be like, okay, this team is going to dominate. Because you saw what happened against Dallas last year. What happened? They lost in 6 games, and Dallas was the 5th seed. They faced Denver this year. Denver, of course, dealing with Aaron Gordon that Game 7 with that hamstring injury. A lot of stuff has to go right for you to win. Against Memphis, Ja Morant gets hurt in Game 3. They're up by, I think, 20 to 30 points. Ja Morant says after the series he had figured them out. You go to last year against the Pelicans, no Zion Williamson. They sweep them in 4 games. So you can't really blame anybody for saying we need to see what they're able to do, because you ain't really seen them against a fully whole team. It's just like the Pacers. The Pacers benefited last year off of injuries. Milwaukee series, New York Knicks series, Milwaukee again. He's doing with injuries. So I say the same about Indiana. I got to see what they do. They're proving against the Knicks that they seem to have their number. And that's all that's really about. It don't matter who the team is. I need to see what they're like against a fully loaded team. That brings me to this conversation. Now, I just posted the stats between SGA. Is he the best player in OKC history? So when you look at SGA and his stats career-wise, that's what he was averaging. 27 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Now let's go over to, and y'all hit that like button, y'all come in here. Let's go into Kevin Durant, and let y'all see what Kevin Durant has done in his career with OKC. 27.4 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3.7 assists. Hold on 1 second, y'all. So KD played 641 games to SGA's 380, more than double. Or actually not a little more than double. He's a little less than double. So the averages, of course, or the totals will be different. So that's why we gotta go by the averages. Averages, he, tied with them scoring, rebounding, 7 rebounds a game, 3.7 assists. They play two different positions, play two different styles. Efficiency rate's pretty close, but I think KD got him in efficiency as well. Let's go ahead and let me do this instead. Let me just go ahead and do this. I'm gonna go ahead and compare them on this right here, so y'all could kind of see a little bit better. Again, we're talking about where does SGA rank all time in OKC Thunder history as the player. So when you talk about, and we're just talking about the OKC years for Kevin Durant. We're not talking about the Golden State. We're not talking about the, you know what I'm saying, the Brooklyn and now Phoenix. So I think KD played from 2007 till 2016. So that's 9 seasons he played, or 10 seasons he played for Golden State, or for OKC. Now, of course, MVPs, they both have an MVP. They both have Kevin Durant has a finals appearance. The SGA does not have a finals appearance yet. If you look at the All-NBA selections, I believe KD, first team, he has been selected four times with OKC. And Shai has done 3 times. You look at the All-NBA teams, I'm pretty sure about 7 to 8 were with OKC. Right? 7 to 8 about with OKC. Shai got 3 right now. Scoring leader, Kevin Durant, I think all 4 of them with OKC. Shai has 1. Steals leader, SGA has 1. Kevin Durant has 0. Rookie of the year, KD had 1. SGA didn't have any Rookie of the Year award. So as far as the honors for them in OKC, of course you're gonna give it to KD. Now, like I said, I'm trying to make this as painful as possible, painless as possible, because this is why I have to continuously put up when I hear these questions. I say, if I wouldn't put stuff up if people didn't say it, but now since I gotta put out, because it's really becoming more so like when people keep bringing stuff up off of the recency bias, I don't really tend to okay. I watched Kevin Durant play in OKC. I know what the team he had built around him. I know the team that Russell Westbrook had built around him. I know the competition they beat. They beat the prime San Antonio. They beat not the prime, but they beat the Spurs. Actually, nah, they were. Tim Duncan was right outside of his prime. Tony Parker was in his prime. Ginobili was also somewhat in his prime still. Not their peaks, but they were winning, and you had a young Kawhi Leonard who was surging. OKC beat the Spurs 2 separate times, and their system wasn't even as good as what the Spurs system was. People act like OKC's team was built so good, and they didn't have no shooters. You had Andre Roberson as their starting shooting guard. Go look him up and how good of a shooting guard he was. He was absolutely a guy that you could not use because he couldn't make 3 free throws and he couldn't make 3-pointers. OKC really didn't have a team that was built correctly like this team that Shai has. That's built balance-wise, with shooters, with size, with athleticism, with youth. They have a better built team. And still, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, because of their greatness, was able to beat the Spurs. They beat the Lakers when they had Kobe Bryant in 2013 or 2012, and that was the last year they had James Harden. They beat the Dallas Mavericks. They beat the Memphis Grizzlies. Or did they beat the Mavericks? They beat the Memphis Grizzlies, right? They beat very, very good to elite teams that were healthy with their best player. I look at that. I look at your statistics. I look at your awards. I look at your shooting splits. I look at all that. So Kevin Durant and SGA shouldn't even be a conversation who was better with their team. Even if you want to count the first 5 seasons or 6. What was SGA? This is his 7th year. Even if you want to count Kevin Durant's first 7 seasons, he already had an MVP. He already had 3 scoring titles. He already had a trip to the finals, 2 conference finals appearances in 2012. Well, no. He already had a trip to the NBA finals. And he was already, with LeBron James, a top 2, top 3 player. Like, I don't think people remember KD. It was a discussion at the early parts of the 2010s who was the best player between LeBron and KD. Somehow people forget that. Now Kevin Durant's career is starting to go down because he can't win without Golden State. But I'm talking about who was the best player in OKC. Everything that KD did, he has over Shai. I think people are gravitating to Shai, and I think this is a good comparison. People are gravitating to Shai because of the story, because of how he came up as a development player, how he came up as a player that had to get it the hard way. And I respect it. I definitely respect it. I respect people that come and do it the hard way. I respect when people do it and they actually do it and get it out the mud. I respect that. But I don't over elevate somebody to undervalue somebody else. Kevin Durant statistically is one of the most consistent players we've ever seen as far as a scoring standpoint and a shooting split efficiency standpoint. He rebounds the basketball. He can play make. He's very, very willing defensively. I'll say that SGA is a two-way player. Just like Kevin Durant, they don't have no all defensive teams, but I would rather have Kevin Durant on defense than SGA because of his length. Right? And then you look at the playoffs, like I mentioned, with OKC, points per game, playoffs, KD averaged 29 to SGA's 24. Rebounds, 7.8 to 5.5, Kevin Durant. Assists, 4.2 to 5.5, SGA. Steals, 1.0 to 1.3 goes to SGA. Blocks, 1.2 to 0.9 goes to Kevin Durant. 3 out of 5 categories go to KD. Points, rebounds, blocks. And the points is a 5-point difference. That's a huge gap from scoring. And I'm saying all this to say this. If you want to talk about stats, we can talk about stats. If we want to talk about accomplishments, we can talk about accomplishments. If we want to talk about head-to-head matches, you can talk about that. We can talk about level of competition they played up against. Whatever you want to talk about. You can talk about their playing style, their game. One guy, Kevin Durant, is a mismatch, no matter who is guarding him. SGA, very crafty, very, very crafty player, skilled player as well. But he has been able to use the art of the whistle to help him get them free throws. I had a discussion about this with E the other day. And what I want to make clear is that there's a difference between a guy who gets fouled and actually is really legitimately getting fouled from a guy who is sitting up there trying to beg for the whistle and flop for calls and then get his free throws to help him get his scoring number up. James Harden, Joel Embiid, well, I wouldn't say Nikola Jokic, even though he does flop. He flops more on defensive end. But he does use the whistle. I'll go with him. He flops. You know what I'm saying? Luka Doncic. And then you got SGA. I call these guys free throw merchants, meaning they are looking for the whistle to bail them out. You got to watch the game. They are looking for the whistle any chance they get. Whatever trick they can get, they're trying to get it. Guys like Giannis, guys like Kevin Durant, guys like Kawhi Leonard, who have an old school mind basketball just to initiate contact, and if they get fouled, they get fouled. They're not looking for the whistle to bail them out. You see that in the free throw totals. You see that when watching the game. They're not looking for the whistle to bail them out. As y'all come here and smash that like button. But again, back to the subject, where does SGA rank all time? Well, he's not better than Kevin Durant. And let's say he could get to the finals and win the championship. Let's say they did that. That would be a conversation to be had. Okay, was he better than Kevin Durant? You would say he had a better season. But even with that, he's just not a better player than Kevin Durant. He's not. Again, I'm going to make it very clear. OKC didn't become good until like the last couple of seasons. They had to develop. Everybody's talking as if they just somehow been good for like 4. That's not been true. They've been struggling. It took, like any other organization, when their picks settle in after 3-4 years, they were rebuilding their team. And then you pick up Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein, some more reinforcement, some more veteran help, some more people who went off the bench. That is what you picked up. It has not been what Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook did, which was pulling role players that a lot of y'all don't even know. Serge Ibaka was their best defensive player. You had Kendrick Perkins, great defensive interior post player. But then who did you have? You had, and I don't mean to disrespect these guys. You had Dennis Schroeder. You had Deion Waiters as their point guard. You had Andre Roberson. You had Steven Adams as a center, who was a big body. But as far as talent, you had Enes Kanter. Like, bro, you didn't have the type of talent that they have right now that's built around the star players. You didn't have the coaching. Shout out to Scott Brooks, but this Mark Denhall coach is a reason why he won Coach of the Year. You look at Scott Brooks in Washington, that tells you all you need to know what he's like without no talent. They've been terrible since Russell Westbrook, we're about to talk about next, has been gone. So that just goes to show you the coach that they had all them years, and they were playing off of talent. They weren't playing off of cohesiveness and order. So Shai, as far as over Kevin Durant, that's over your head. As y'all come here and smash that like button. Now let's go into somebody else. Let's go into Russell Westbrook, because I'm actually happy a lot of people are starting to not slander his name. I'm telling you, Russell Westbrook's name has been slided so much that people really thought this dude is just a bum. I have never seen a person's career went from bad to good, or good to bad, or good to the ground as fast as this guy. I mean, it's unbelievable the way they were able to manipulate people's minds on his guy just seemed like just a bum, this, that, and the other. Really can't shoot. They never even knew. If I told you Russell Westbrook had the best mid-range shot when he was OKC, you think I was just lying. But he definitely did. Go watch the film. His pull-up mid-range shot was automatic. His free throw shooting was above 80% multiple years in OKC. Now you see 65 and 66. Now you see he's not as comfortable in the mid-range. That's a lot because of his mental. And that's Skip Bayless as well, lying to the people. And that's for another day because of personal reasons. But again, I want to go back to, like I said, Russell Westbrook and SGA. Now, I want to put something very, very clear as well. Because now we're talking about what Russell Westbrook against SGA did. I had this conversation. I told somebody this the other day, or a couple weeks ago. I said, when the Denver series was going on, I said, man, I would love to see Russ against SGA when Russ was in his prime, bro. That's what I would love to see, because I don't think people understand Russ in his prime. I'm talking about from like 2015 to about 2017, right at his peak. 2015 to about 2017 at his peak, and then his prime, extended up until about 2020. You can make the case that Westbrook and Steph Curry were the two best point guards for a 2-year span. You had D Rose, who was dealing with injuries. He was kind of falling out the conversation. You had John Wall. You had Chris Paul. You had Damian Lillard. Those are the 5 guys from like 2015 to about 2020. Y'all come here and smash that like button. Top 5 point guards in the league. And Russ and Steph Curry were the two top of the food chain. You were going back and forth saying, okay, well, is Steph Curry better? Is Russell Westbrook better? Yada, yada, yada. For about 2 years. That 2016 playoffs where OKC gave up that 3-1 lead was the end of that conversation, unfortunately. Now, some people may say, well, yeah, Steph Curry won, but is he the better player? That's fair. But at some point, you got to capitalize on what you're saying. You got to win. OKC had the silver platter. They had Golden State down 3-1. And to be quite honest with you, that just goes to show you, again, how talented Russell Westbrook they were, because Golden State had the better system, better offense, better ball movement, all that. But as far as the star power of the players individually, Russell Westbrook and KD, I would take over Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, or Steph Curry and Draymond Green any day. But it's a team sport. But I want to go into comparing Russell Westbrook and SGA. We got KD out the way. SGA ain't touching KD. But let's go into Russell Westbrook. If you look at All-Star games, I think only one All-Star game Russ didn't have with OKC. I think he had one All-Star game with Washington. So I think I'm gonna go with he had 8 All-Stars with OKC to SGA's 3. Playoffs played, I'll go for like what? Yeah, one in Washington, one in Houston, one with the Lakers, one with the Clippers. So about 9 playoff appearances with OKC. Right? Now again, Shai is 7 years in. But again, if the conversation is if he's better than the best OKC Thunder player, that's what you're telling me then right now. And right now, from the numbers standpoint, from the accomplishment standpoint, it's too much body of work that Russell Westbrook and KD have had where you have to put them, they're still over SGA. The thing that people are looking and hoping is that if SGA somehow gets to the finals, then that would supersede him. But that time has to come for us to talk about it. Now, all NBA teams, they both have a season MVP. Shai has 3 All-NBA first teams to Russell Westbrook's All-NBA, 2 All-NBA first teams. All-NBA teams together, Russ has 8. I believe he had 1 in Washington. He was All-NBA third team, so he had 8 All-NBA teams in OKC. Scoring leaders, Russ had 2. SGA had 1. Assist leader, Russ had 3. SGA had 0. I want to stop right there real quick. From a statistical standpoint, we know Russell Westbrook was. Steals leader, SGA has 1. To Russell Westbrook 0. So just measuring Russell Westbrook's OKC years, the awards of all NBA teams, scoring leaders, assist leaders, all that stuff go to him. All-star games go to him. Playoff play go to him. Points per game, rebounds, or points per game and blocks are the only things that SGA has over Russ. The rest of the categories, rebounds, assists, and steals, for as far as regular season, again, as far as the regular season goes, Shai is definitely that player in the regular season. But Russell Westbrook was that player in the regular season as well. From a statistical standpoint, he was that player. Now, What if Russ, that year that KD left, had the same type of ingredients and pieces? And this is the part that goes over a lot of people's heads. I want to pull something up. So I want to pull something up real quick. This is the roster that Russell, right? This is the roster that they had. And I want y'all to take a deep look on what the roster Russell Westbrook had to pretty much play with. And let me say something else too. You never heard him drag his teammates and talk down about his teammates, anything like that, right? But this is the team that he had. They went 47-35, I believe, this year. Let me make sure I got this right, and I'm not making anything up. 2014, 2015. Yeah. So they were 47-35 with this team. They were 47-35. Make sure I got this. Make sure I ain't pulling something out of that. 1 second. Hold on, y'all. Okay, yeah, we good. So I want y'all to look at this roster and tell me basically what y'all see. Can y'all name any of these guys on the chat? Can y'all name these players one by one? Like, just go ahead and start typing, because when I look at a guy like Russell Westbrook, what I notice he needs a lot around him, he needs outside shooters. He needs guys that can space the floor. Players that can make shots for him to pass the ball to. Just like James Harden needs shooters around him, Russell Westbrook needs shooters around him. And that's something that I noticed that he didn't have in OKC. A point guard, a high usage point guard, any point guard like a James Harden, like a Russell Westbrook, like a Luka Doncic, like a LeBron James, all those 3-point shooters that kick the ball out to when they get to the lane, to kick the ball out to when they get collapsed on, get doubled, whatever the case may be. They need shooters around them. And as I look at this roster, I don't see much of that. You have no stars for one, but you don't really have any 3-point. You don't have any 3-point threats. I mean, outside Doug McDermott, where's the spacing on the court? Who's the one knocking down 3-point shots when he's not scoring, or when he's getting collapsed on? You got Steven Adams. You got Nick Collison. They can't shoot. Enes Kanter can't shoot. Nerlens Noel can't shoot. Victor Oladipo is a scorer. Cameron Payne's a scorer. Andre Roberson, he ain't no shooter. You got Domantas Sabonis. He ain't no 3-point sniper. You don't really have any 3-point threats. Why I say that is because the amount of what he was able to get out of a roster like this and get them to the 6th seed, SGA couldn't do that. He couldn't do that when he first came with OKC the first 4 years. They had to build and develop to get better. I don't even think SGA can do that now. If you took away all that, if you took away his second scoring option, Jalen Williams, if you took away the bench threats that he had, if you took away the 3-point snipers that he had, all that away from him, guy would be struggling. The guy would be struggling because he doesn't have nowhere near the physical gifts of a Russell Westbrook to individually take over games on both ends of the court. Now, I know somebody said, well, SGA plays defense, look, he's getting 2 steals a game. It's a difference between stopping guys on the ball and then getting in passing lanes, waiting for the ball to come to you and get steals in a 2-3 zone like the OKC Thunder like to run. I'm telling you that coach, Mark Dendenhall, is an all-world class coach that puts his players in the best position. They collapse in the lane When teams drive, they're very defensively disciplined, where everybody's helping one another out. But I say that to say this. As far as an individual player, as far as an individual talent, as far as just a player in general, dominance, I don't see where SGA is even over Russell Westbrook. Shooting percentages are the only thing I see that he's actually over. He's basically, beating him out on consistently. Everything else, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, or, SGA has over Russ as far as their best season. But if you put Russ and SGA against each other, and Russ is eating SGA alive. But this is the conversations we're going to have. Who's the better playoff performer? Who's the better regular season performer? Who's the better player in general? I mean, again, I've never seen a guy who's their whole entire career just went through the toilet. People will say, well, Russ had Kevin Durant. He got to the finals. He had Kevin Durant. Okay, let's look at what Russ did in those finals real quick. I want to bring this up, and I'm going to bring up another player. Because I told you I'm going all the way in. So let's look at something real quick, what Russell Westbrook did in those finals. So he averaged 27 points per game, 6.6 assists, and 6.4 rebounds in 5 games in the finals. There was a particular game he had 43 points. I believe that was game 5 or game 4 in Miami. Very similar, and he's not him. I'm not saying he's him, but just like Kobe Bryant was the second option, that's what Russell Westbrook was as a second option. But some of your second options were as impactful as your first options are today. 27 points on majority of teams is your first option. You saw what Russell Westbrook can do statistically in that one year when he won the MVP. He won the damn MVP. The conversation was he's an all-time great player because Oscar Robertson is the triple-double king. Russ did it 4 times in a row. Oh, it don't really mean nothing. What he has done is he has spoiled a lot of people to thinking something that's normal is actually something that's rare and special. You're going to give a guy credit for making all these double-doubles, but the guy that gets all the triple-doubles is always padding his stats. That's how I know a lot of this stuff is personal when it comes to Russell Westbrook. If we're just being completely honest, like I told y'all before, more times than not, statistically, he's the greatest point guard that we've ever seen. And as you look deeper into he hasn't really had great teams built around him when he was in his prime. The best teams, and they weren't even greatly built, were in OKC because of his youth with Kevin Durant. Other than that, they didn't really have much really else to go to. All right, so like I said about Russ, man, and I say this all the time. Y'all been around long enough. I tell y'all all the time, Russ statistically is the greatest point guard that we've ever seen. If we're gonna give Oscar Robertson and big ups to OG Oscar Robertson and Big O, but I used to always remember just hearing about Oscar Robertson, triple-double king. He had the triple-double. I remember people talking about the triple-double. This is why he's the top 15. I had him. There was a list, and this is why ESPN is trash. There was a list that had Oscar Robertson in front of Kobe Bryant. Now, I don't care how much you dislike Kobe Bryant. There's no list on human earth that should have Oscar Robertson, with all due respect, over Kobe Bryant, who's a 5-time champion, who's the second greatest shooting guard of all time, who's a 2-way elite player, who is a 12-time all-defensive team player, 15-time all-NBA team player, 2-time final MVP. I mean, he blows Mr. Robertson out the window. Outside of stats, that's very true. But as far as the tenure, as far as the consistency of their careers, I mean, just look at the accomplishments that Kobe Bryant has done, the dominance he did in his prime, and just compare it to Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson won championship with Milwaukee, won it with Kareem, of course, and never really had any more competition since then. I understand the level of competition with in the 70s was there, but Kobe had to face competition as well. And at the end of the day, you got to go against who you have to pretty much evaluate who you faced. So I just looked at that as just being purely hatred off of Kobe for outside reasons. And I've done that video many times about this. But Westbrook took the triple double that Oscar Robertson hit and tripled it. 3 seasons in a row averaging a triple double. And that it got to a point where people thought he was padding his stats. You hear stuff like, oh, he's standing by the basket trying to get his rebounds, and he's trying to, pass the ball to get an assist instead of making the right play. All I seen Russell Westbrook do is play a faster pace of play, which gave him the opportunity to get those numbers. But you can't blame him for that, because who doesn't, what high usage ball player doesn't hold on to the ball and get their numbers? LeBron James does it, Luka Doncic does it, James Harden did it. You know what I'm saying? All point guards who do it have that. They have that, they have that skill. Nikola Jokic does it. He's not much of a I don't know what to call Nikola Jokic, because he's unique. He's 6'11", but he's their point forward. He's their point center, right? You hear point guard, you hear point forward, but you rarely hear point center. So that's where it's really kind of like difficult to really gaze at, But he is the one touching the ball most of the time. But all I'm saying is, with back with SGA and Russell Westbrook, as far as the dominance, as far as the tenure, as far as their stints in OKC, I mean, again, Russell Westbrook, an individual player, was more dominant than SGA. And that might be hard for people to leave, because we are in the present, and a lot of these people don't understand how, great these players before him was. But just look at the history and look at the evidence. Look at the teams that the OKC Thunder faced with Russ and KD leading them. Look at the team Russell Westbrook took when in the year that they didn't have Kevin Durant, or they had nobody with him before they got Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. I'm going to actually talk about Paul George as well. And this might shock a lot of y'all. Now, Paul George isn't an MVP for OKC. He's not. And he was only there for 2 seasons, so it's hard for anybody to make a real case, but I'm going to still talk about it. Let's pull up what Paul George did in OKC, his tenure there. So his tenure there, he averaged 25 points a game, 6.9 rebounds, 3.7 assists in 156 games. So 2 points shy of SGA. Average more rebounds and average a little bit less assists, which is expected. They played well, yeah, because Russ was the point guard. So it's easier to compare 2 point guards than a forward and a point guard, right? Statistically. However, I've said this before, and I say it again. As far as an individual player, as far as their dominance at their peaks, what they've had to carry, what they've had to drag, and what they had to deal with when they didn't have their second star or their full team, Paul George has done it consistently. What he did in 2021, SGA would not be able to do, because he couldn't even do it on his own team. Those OKC teams, just like Devin Booker, it's a prime example. Devin Booker putting up all them numbers. What's happening? They're getting beat every year in the first round, or they're not even making the playoffs. Those seasons they have like 25 wins, 26 wins, 30 wins, just pretty much to the point where they couldn't even crack outside of the top 12, top 11. It wasn't until they got Chris Paul, well, all of a sudden Phoenix is a world-beating team. They went from being a play-in team all the way to the second seed. Hits Chris Paul's first year there. That's the same thing that happened with OKC when they had Chris Paul as a 5th seed in the bubble. They took the Houston Rockets 7 games. They could have easily gotten past the Houston Rockets and went to the second round against the Lakers. That's what Chris Paul is able to do. He's able to take your team and elevate them, no matter who's on the roster. He did it with New Orleans, got them to their second round against the Spurs and lost in 7 games. That's the farthest they've went since New Orleans left. They had Anthony Davis, they had DeMarcus Cousins, they had Zion Williamson right now. They have not gotten, since Chris Paul was with New Orleans, they have not gotten out of the second round as far as he did. He goes to the Clippers. When Lob City, automatically a playoff team. They weren't a playoff team before Chris Paul got there. With Keaton Richardson, with Lamar Odom, with Darius Miles, with people, they weren't no playoff team. The Clippers were the laughingstock of the league. Nobody was concerned about the Clippers, bro. I know, I was a Laker fan. We looked at the Clippers as pretty much a damn expansion team. But Chris Paul brought excitement. He got their wins up there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were the number 1 seed one of those seasons as well. I think that's the first time the Clippers ever been a number 1 seed. You go to Phoenix. You go to OKC. Took him as a 5th seed. His only year back. I'm gonna go back to OKC, who was formerly known as New Orleans Pelicans. Or whatever. Like, he's with OKC. He takes him as a 5th seed. He goes to Phoenix, who's been at the bottom of the West for I don't know how all that time. Devin Booker was there, scoring all them points, scored 70 points against Boston. First year there, they get to the 2nd seed. The next year, they're the 1st seed. The year after the 4th seed. Look at Phoenix right now. They didn't even make the playoffs. And you had Kevin Durant, you had Devin Booker. For whatever reason, they can't seem to get it done. You brought in Bradley Beal. So my point is that that's what Chris Paul does. But back to Paul George. And I'm going to make a video about this as well, about this whole, the Clippers lost the trade and all that stuff. I'm going to give SGA his respect. He deserves the MVP. He deserves to be applauded for the development he has done. But all this, he's the best player in OKC history, or what is he, like, all premature talk. As far as his tenure, them 2 years that Paul George, that MVP season, where he was third in MVP voting, and he was top 3 in defensive. That alone, to me, makes me believe, I feel like, is a better player. See, a lot of this, this person's a two-way player, this player's a two-way player. Okay, where's the all defensive teams at? When you're watching them play, is he guarding the best players? Is he stopping them? Is he slowing them down? Is he lowering their scoring average? It's a lot that goes into a two-way player, elite two-way player. Just like the Norman Powell discussion. Norman Powell, he's going to be a second option. Well, you come to the playoffs, he looks good the regular season. The playoffs, you see what happened. And that's what happens when you put your foot in your mouth too quickly. Oh, SGA led this league in steals. Well, Paul George led the league in steals in the year he had the MVP. He just didn't get it. That race was, I believe, it was Giannis, PG, and James Harden. They gave it to Giannis Antetokounmpo, but Paul George was right neck and neck with him. And this is the year that Kawhi Leonard was playing. I think he played 57 games. Wasn't enough to be competitive. But that's what you traded for. That's what you traded for. Unfortunately, guys didn't stay healthy. Guys weren't able to stay on the court, and that's all that happened. But as far as an individual player, as far as what he is able to, Paul George's resume has already spoken for himself. He hasn't won a championship yet, but you're talking about 3 conference finals appearances. You're talking about the teams he faced and went up against. You're talking about his ability to play both ends of the basketball. As an individual player, I'm taking Paul George over SGA. I mean, that's what I'm taking. But it's as far as OKC Thunder history, I can see why you would put SGA over PG because his tenure wasn't long enough. Fair enough. But as far as these two players, and you go back and just look at what they did for their individual teams and the teams they took in. Like I said, Katie and Russ already were in the finals when they were 22 and 23 years old. SGA is 26 and went on 27. And again, I have to do this video because I get annoyed with the narratives. I get very annoyed with it, and people just put stuff out. Now the case is we went from SGA was the trade a mistake. That's a fair question. I can take that. I can calmly take that, and I can actually put that in there, and I can say, you know what? Let's have that conversation. He's in the conference finals yet, even though the Clippers were in the conference finals 4 years ago. I can't take this. SGA didn't have to go up against LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in their prime. I had somebody ask a question, who was the more better team? And I'm like, are you serious? Like, do you know the type of teams that OKC team was beating and facing? They were facing dynasties. They were facing all-time. You faced the best power forward of all time. You faced arguably the greatest player of all time. I got him top 6. I don't have LeBron top 5, but that's in talks. A lot of people in this millennial say he's the greatest. That's what OKC had to face. You faced Dirk Nowitzki in 2011 that won the championship, beating the Lakers, OKC, and the Miami Heat in one finals run, arguably one of the top finals greatest runs of all time. That's who they faced. You faced Kobe Bryant, which, to be quite honest with you, that OKC team put away that dynasty. Remember, the Lakers were coming off of a championship a couple years prior. They lost to the Mavericks in 11. They faced the OKC Thunder in 2012. They put them out in the second round in 6 games. Katie and Russell Westbrook did that. These are all-time top 5 to top 10 players of all time that they're going up against. And you got this 2025 team, OKC, facing teams without their best players, who they face a team against the Nuggets, who they face Jokic. They win 7 games, a team that people thought that was just so inferior. Well, how the hell they go 7 games? I'm telling you, I would really like to see what would happen if everybody was healthy on the court. But I converge from that. Right now, OKC is playing great basketball. They're pretty much taking care of home court against Minnesota. They're doing what they're supposed to do. But the narratives I draw the line at, bro, I can't succumb to it. So, again, congratulations to SGA for winning the season MVP. And they're playing great basketball right now. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. Until next time, pull up a seat, pull up a chair, put it loud. Peace. Out of here like swimwear.